Hey, hey.
Hey, what's up, girl?
It is a good week. It's a good day despite being, exhausted, but what's new?
Right. What's going on? You exhausted? Why are you so exhausted, girl? You too young.
I got young kids. I'm not too young for that. That's like the story of my life right now. Um, no, it is the week of back to school and
Mm,
right in the thick of that transition. So yeah, I
okay.
I'm tired, but we're rolling because that's what we do, and that's where we're at. But welcome everybody to Misfits Managed. I am your co-host, Lauren.
And your boy, Coach G.
Welcome, Misfits Managed Nation.
Oh, you got it out this time. Look at you, girl. You stole it. You getting it to roll. How did it feel rolling off your tongue?
Good.
Okay.
I'm used to typing it out, so it felt good.
Yeah, it's a little juicy there. Yeah, I like that.
How about you? How are you today?
I'm good. I was off yesterday. I took a mental health day, rested, but
Nice.
so playing catch up today. So it was a busy day, but
Yeah,
I'm okay.
good.
Pushing through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm excited about tonight because we have a lovely guest who we both know,
Hmm.
and um, she brings a fantastic point of view, and I am excited to dig into her story and get to know her a little bit more than even I already do.
Right. Right. That's powerful.
Yeah, so
Are
let's bring
you
her on in.
okay? Come on in.
Hey, friends.
Hello, Miss Andrea. How are
Hey.
you?
Hello. I am glad to be present with both of you on this amazing Tuesday night in hot August, even though it's been like overcast for 2 days.
I would say it's
But
been
no,
beautiful.
I'm glad to be on with you. It's been muggy here in Kansas City for anyone watching the
Yes.
replay.
Right.
At this
Yes.
moment, it's kind of wet outside.
Slightly. Which is the reason I don't dry my hair anymore because it doesn't matter what I do with it. It does what it wants.
Here
Yeah,
to that.
I
Go
got that problem
natural.
too, ladies. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I don't know what to do. Hey,
Does your
Andrea, I
does
gotta.
your beard have like does your
Oh
beard
yeah,
get different textures during different weather? I
yeah,
don't know.
yes. I'm trying to grow it out more, so I'm thinking maybe I need to wait on that. But
It's an experiment. That's
There
right,
you
life.
go.
right.
Life is a great experiment.
Hey, girl, I miss you. I haven't seen you or
I
talked to you in
know.
forever and a day. So
I
I'm like,
haven't seen either of you. Now
yeah.
I've been digitally stalking you, and I've seen both of you present and give talks through the AYPN group. Maybe
Hmm.
maybe not in the last few weeks, but I'm rooting for you from a digital distance. I'm
Arms
rooting for
are
you digitally.
It,
Hey, support is support, so we
there you
appreciate it.
go.
Mhm.
I always think it's funny when like things like this happen. You're like, I haven't seen you in so long, and all of a sudden you're like, but I still know everything you're up to right now because
Right,
I
right.
talked
It's true. I know.
W-
Yeah, that's one of the sadder. It's a sad quality about our digital world, and it's also kind of cool that we can
Yeah,
Right.
keep tabs on one another.
yeah,
But then it's probably also like we make excuses, and then we don't keep in as close of touch.
Well, I thought it was
yes.
funny how you just switched up your word there. First, it was you stalked us, and now we're keeping tabs on each other.
Digitally stalking you. Yes.
Okay, hey, whatever
Mhm.
works.
Yeah.
It's true though. Like you don't actually have to make the personal connection anymore because you already know what
Mhm.
everybody's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Scroll through the feed and
Yeah.
you already know what's going on.
yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
sad though
It is.
that our nation is coming to that, but
It
it is
is.
what it is.
On a brighter note, we are
Mhm.
talking about you tonight. So, um, since I did not do any sort of good introduction or any introduction at all, tell us about you, Andrea.
Yeah, who is Andrea?
Let's do that. Let's do that. So I love going by my middle name. So Andrea Luzon, Legacy Liberator. I love the moniker Legacy Liberator because I really believe that there is a legacy inside every human.
Yeah.
And it's not like necessarily buildings and money and fame and
Yeah.
inheritance. It's a love legacy that is inside of you. And it's really the conversation that you're having on a deep subconscious level.
Yeah.
And then that oozes out of you, even if you're not being intentional about it. It's just coming out of you in all your relationships, in your workplace, in
Yeah.
your parenting, in your romance. So the love legacy, it's like it's your authentic nature. The reality, though, is that a lot of us are actually interacting with life from more of the armor and more of the wounding
Right.
that's really denying that love legacy. So I feel like my work as a coach, as a healing practitioner, is to work with individuals in reclaiming that love legacy that is authentically theirs. That's what I'm passionate about.
That's
That
pretty
is
rich.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta say, Luzon is your middle name.
Yes, Andrea Luzon.
Until
Okay.
you
Luzon.
said that, I didn't even know that.
I didn't
Yep.
either.
Yeah, Luzon is my middle name, and then Helt is my maiden name, and then my married last name is Coates. So Andrea Luzon Helt Coates is my full name, and so
Okay.
What?
I've written poetry under Andrea Luzon, even since I was like
Oh,
18. So that kind of has always felt very, very much me, like
gotcha.
100% me. And then you
Okay.
get married, and then there's the name. Like, do I change my name? Do I
Yeah.
not change my name? So I really feel like Andrea Luzon is really my most authentic self.
Okay.
So, have you ever looked up Luzon to see what it means?
Yes,
Look
I
at
have.
Lauren.
There are
She's
different.
like, "Here you go again, Gary."
No,
Yeah,
I was
there are
wondering the same
different.
thing.
There are different interpretations, but luz, Luz, in the Romance languages, Latin origin, is light.
Oh,
And the interpretations I've heard is that it is big light.
okay.
So
Ooh.
I'm like, yay. So that makes me feel even more akin to that. It's also the
Yeah.
capital island of the Philippines. So Manila is on the island of Luzon. The capital
Okay.
city of the
Nice.
Philippines is on the island of Luzon. I have not yet been there, but
Well,
maybe
you
we're going to talk about stuff, but that's definitely on my needs to happen, gets to happen.
right bucket list.
Yeah.
Not gonna should on myself, but
Yeah.
it gets to happen
Yeah.
that I get to go to the island of Luzon at some point in my life.
That would be
That's
really
pretty
cool.
fitting because you definitely light up a
Yeah.
room when you come in. You just
Mhm.
bring, such a spirit of light and love,
Thank
harmony to a room. So I appreciate that. What
Yeah.
about
thank
Andrea?
you.
Have you looked up that?
Um, so many different interpretations, so many. But I think biblically, where did my little thing go? I think biblically it says, "Godly woman, the way of the righteous is level. Thou dost make smooth the path of the righteous." This is Isaiah 26:7.
Wow.
I have
Okay.
my mom gave me that plaque. Like I've had that plaque a lot with me since I was little, and
Huh.
it kind of, I don't know. Is it righteous is also kind of also one of my foibles that I think part of my shadow is to kind of show up a bit overly strong when when my buttons get pushed. And
Yeah.
so that's just interesting that it's like the light shadow and the dark shadow of like it's saying that the path inside of you is righteous and level. And then it's
Hmm.
like, oh, that's great, but also I can I know that sometimes I can get a little self-righteous when
Yeah.
I think that I know what's right. So
Well, you're
that's just an
human. That's
interesting
okay.
it's an interesting first line to the name.
Andrea, I had a quick question for you and everything, because whenever I think of legacy and I look at that title of yours, I think of ancestors, because I know that I am very proud of my grandmother, who was the first African American, was a librarian that created the first African American library in Raleigh, North Carolina, and everything. And I have other family legacy as well. So whenever I think of legacy, I think of the family tradition. So I was wondering if that's part of the work that you do, is connecting people to their ancestors and to the people that have left this planet in now or in the heavenly ground and everything. So I just wondered if that was part of the work that you do, because as soon as I saw legacy, I'm like, well, when I think of legacy, I think of ancestors. So I didn't know if that was part of your work and everything.
It does come up because I work with personality, and then also, what's underneath the personality. And and of course also we all inherited DNA that is not just in our physical fibers, but also certain fears, phobias, insects, fire, things like that are just kind of in our fiber, just in our fibers since our cave person days when we needed to stay safe and be a part of a tribe and things like that. But I hear what you're saying, Mark, that that looking at our lineage is part of it, and like what have my great grandparents passed down to me. And there's the wounding, but then there's also the gratitude. If they hadn't lived, you would have possibly, now this is where I'm getting into my beliefs, but you might have come into a different body and you might be self-expressed in a different way. But yeah, so there's so much that we get to look at when we're talking about legacy and we're talking about liberating ourselves.
It's so good. So where did this originate? I mean, that's a question I've never really sat down. We've talked a little bit about, what you do, which that's coming as a question because we want you to kind of dissect that and break that down. But let's go back. This show, we're all about root cause. So
root cause.
Was there an event that happened, or did you just stumble on this? What brought us to this journey?
How much time do I have for this little snippet?
Okay.
My biggest, I will say it was like a coming to your knees moment, like the phrase, like come to Jesus, or
on the road to Damascus moment.
Yeah, 2x4 between the eyes, gift of life to help you choose life instead of the way that you're living. So yes, definitely that. At what's interesting is that I was right around 40. My kids were sub kindergarten. I have twins, and they are now in 5th grade. They were sub kindergarten, and I had been at a corporation for 7 years, almost exactly. I'm noticing this like 7-year pattern as I look through my life. And
trust me, I'm listening to those numbers.
Oh my goodness, when I hear you're like name, meaning, and numbers.
I'm big on those. Those drive your destiny.
Yeah, I'm noticing these iterations of like lessons or paths that do seem to have this like 7 to 10 year turning point. It's as I recall it and see these phases. That is really interesting. So I had been at this Forbes top 20 company for 7 years. Okay. And I would get these inklings every couple of years that I really wanted to do something else.
Yeah.
That I really wasn't feeling like my gifts and talents were being utilized.
Yeah.
And it was affecting my self-worth. It was affecting my confidence. And I would be like, okay, I'm gonna start applying for jobs, and I would apply for a couple of things, or I would look within the company to see if there was a better fit. And then I would lose my steam and wouldn't try very hard. All of that to say, at about the 7-year mark, just had that, there was this moment where it was like, I felt like I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't leave my house and go to work. And it was a Friday. It was Valentine's Day. I'm also noticing a thing with Februaries. I'm like, I gotta be real together in Februaries, because it seems that that's when I think also I get a bit of seasonal affective. So, December, January, February I can feel a bit unmoored, like disconnected, isolated, not working out as much. It's darker. Yes, but I just couldn't get up and go to work, and was feeling really crappy. And then just tears started to flood, and crying, called my husband, said, I don't know what's going on. Can you come home? And I couldn't even call in sick for work because I didn't even have the language. Like you had just said, Coach G, that you took a mental health day. And it's like, that should be part of our common vernacular, that there are just times where it's just like, I am having like a low moment and I am needing this day. I didn't have the words. I didn't know how to say to my manager, I can't get off the floor. I'm crying and I'm losing it today. I will hopefully see you Monday. Or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm taking a PTO day,
Yeah.
and then we cachet the PTO days. Ugh, let's not even go the direction of corporations.
Right,
But
right,
so
right.
didn't go in, but then couldn't get off the floor, called a girlfriend. She had studied shadow work. She had studied spiritual psychology at a university in Santa Monica, California. And she's just like, you got to go. Like do you have the funds? Could you make it work? You'd have to go there for a long weekend once a month for 12 months, but it will save your life. And I'm
And you
so
did
glad I
it.
called her. I was embarrassed to call her, but I knew that there was one friend who wouldn't let me just go back to my old ways, like
Can I
selling out and not being valued and
Yeah.
can
just
I can I
continuing to.
pause you there?
Yeah, please.
Wow, that's rich. But I have to pause because I'm wondering, Lauren, where's that landing with you?
I don't know. I was like so engrossed in what she was talking about that where are you going with this?
Well, I mean, where you've kind of been over the last couple
Oh,
months. I mean,
you're
her,
talking about me. Okay.
yeah. So I'm her 7 year, which number seven is the number of completion. So that might have been a time frame that that space in your life was over, and new beginning or new birth was breeding inside of you. You know, you were
Yeah.
pregnant with something else. So, Lauren, I'm excited to see. I was watching, listening to Andrea, but I was looking at you because I'm like, I wonder where that's landing.
I mean, I can 100% relate to all of that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Just really quickly along those same lines and everything, because I sometimes wonder, and this is for everybody here in the room, Coach and Lauren as well. I had the pleasure earlier today of having some young kids come to the cultural arts center that I work in. Part of what they were doing was getting a sense of culture and arts and also a sense of history and everything. But I was just impressed that this young daycare or day camp was bringing kids 5 to 11 to learn about stuff. So my question is, at what point should we be paying attention to life lessons and trying to encourage life lessons? Because, like I said, I think the youngest kid was 5, and the oldest one was like 11 to 12. So the fact that they would come out to try to have a because there was a lot of life lessons the teacher was teaching as well. But I sometimes think that we don't do enough of that. And I know Lauren's a mother as well, so I just wondered y'all's thoughts around that, because I hear the term life coach, but I'm thinking that maybe we need to even be coaching some of our kids. And I know you're a coach and everything, but I just wonder y'all's thoughts about this notion, because I think that we need to train our kids and not wait until we're like, well, I'm in my 60s, wait till we're in our 60s or 40s or 50s or whatever. But I just wondered your take on that, Andrea, because it really impressed me that this young lady, Lisa, who is her family started this daycare camp like 22 years ago. So it's a day camp that's running 22 years in his, any camp or education that's lasting that long is a success in its own right. But I just wanted your take on this, Andrea, this notion of us trying to do life coaching throughout life.
Well, and to add to that, Andrea, going back to the numbers 7 through 10 that you referenced earlier, as a 7, 8, 9, 10 year old, did you recognize change?
Right.
To go to Mark's point, to add to his point, did you personally recognize those points in your life, 7, 14, 21, and so on, which I think gives value to Mark's question, a greater value.
Yes. Yes, we definitely had some big moves, like physical location moves, being
This
pulled
is,
out of a school and moved
this is
into a
so
different
good.
school.
So
Yes,
good.
I can track back to these
Wow.
pivotal life changes that were happening, and how the interesting thing I think for all of us is, what story did we make up about ourselves when we
Oh,
experienced the upset, when we
Yes.
experienced when we experienced a parent not showing up, picking us up, literally lifting us to pick us up, or missing picking us up from a sport or school, or not
Yeah.
coming to the game. or not doing that vacation, or maybe not having a parent, having a missing parent, or being adopted. It's just interesting how there can be so many interesting caregiver
Yeah.
upsets that happen in our young lives. But what did we make up? And are
Yeah.
we willing to really work with a coach or a therapist or some kind of practitioner who has the expertise to guide us to be with ourselves at those times and unpack the stories we made up typically about our value,
Right.
typically about our worthiness, typically about our lovability, and then how is that affecting us now?
You sound like you're a landmark graduate.
No, but many of my peers are. So
Okay, because I've
I've
never heard anybody say story if they're not a landmark graduate. So wow.
yeah, I've loved every program that I've done. So
Okay.
spiritual psychology, and then shadow work, transformational leadership. And
Okay.
I feel like, yeah, being willing to figure out the stories that you made up about the upsets is,
Yeah.
I think it's like it's a big pivot. That's how our shadow happens, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's our light shadow or our dark shadow.
Yep.
Like I, from a very young age, was not sure we should go here in this conversation. I'm having like a hiccup happening in my head. But like from a very young age, I was considered sexy, like from pretty young. And because that's shameful when
Mm-hmm.
or society tells you that that's not okay when you're in middle school or even maybe upper elementary school.
Yep.
I developed early, y'all. So then we start to disassociate from those aspects, and we don't let ourselves claim those parts of us that
Oh
do
wow.
have some, maybe there's some negativity, but there's also positivity.
Yeah.
Like, you know, my intimate relationship with my partner is enhanced because I have that aspect alive in me, alive and healthy in me. But denying it for so long, and I've actually, anyway, we could go in a whole other direction. But certain coaches will say, like, don't tap too much into your sexiness because that's, you're going to attract the wrong people. And it's just so interesting how we just go to that
Yeah.
automatically, and it
Right.
becomes like, and so that's a little bit of an edgy one. But like, maybe you're gifted at basketball, but your friends growing up were the artist crew or the emo group or whatever they were, and they kind of heckled you for being super, like, doing well at something
Yeah.
that they weren't good at, so they sure as heck weren't going to give you accolades. And then we try to tuck that athleticism away because
Right.
some people in our tribe are shaming us. And so that's how we can tuck away, like, the light shadow, the enhanced, the gifts that we have. So yeah, what story did we make up when we were disappointed? What
That's
did
so
people
Yeah.
good.
mean about us?
Well, what a misfit.
I was gonna
Man,
say
Yeah, I know.
that's
what a
right.
misfit she is. I love this, man.
She's
Yeah.
definitely a misfit and everything. But Andrea, you brought up an interesting story, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Because I actually did that with that same group. Because there is a puppet that is in my building, and the puppet talks about born in Mississippi, raised in Tennessee, and then came to Durham, North Carolina after they hopped on a freight train. So I embellished that story a little bit to make it more of a story in order for the kids to get an idea of what that narrative would be like. That if you saw a train and it's open, that they didn't have to necessarily pay for the ticket. They literally were jumping on board and everything along those lines. So I embellished the story so the kids would have that story element. So how important is it for us to develop stories just in our everyday life? And that's for both Lauren and Coach G, because I sometimes think that we forget that childlike wonder even as misfits and everything. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, because I think that sometimes we are so busy in that rush that we like wonder and everything. Andrea,
Childlike
any thoughts?
wonder. Yeah, childlike wonder is one of my superpowers. I'm going to own
Oh,
that.
Yeah.
I'm one
okay.
of those. I'm one of
Come
those
on,
people
girl.
who totally stops and smells the roses, and loving the animation films, and to like Disneyland. I mean, oh my gosh, sometimes I think I know that deep down it's like play. My authentic self is like wonder, play, and curiosity and
Mm,
enthusiasm. Core Andrea. And
Yeah.
it's just like, wow, well, how often am I connecting with my play? How
right.
often am I connecting with my wonder? And the part of the beauty of Disneyland and places like that is there's so much story. that castle, when you first walk in, it's not like it's some wild ride, but your imagination as you go in these different rooms, it's pretty basic thing. But if you're a child who's ever seen, oh my gosh, what's the movie? It's Sleeping Beauty. So
Yeah.
the main castle is Sleeping Beauty's castle. So if you've ever seen the movie, you look in these little windows. Just it's such a basic experience, but you look in the windows and you're brought into the story, and you're thinking of the dragon, and you're thinking of the evil witch coming and putting the whole town to sleep, like the whole county is everyone's put to sleep. Yeah, so I think stories are so important. Didn't we used to only pass down history through story before we had written
Right.
language?
Right.
So story is huge.
That's so good.
Okay, so I'm like you were just talking about your like play and wonder and everything, and going back to that childlike wonder, and I'm like, okay, what does that look like for everybody? And the fact that we as people, like, I am terrible at smelling the roses, terrible, but
At least you're owning it.
but I'm sitting here thinking, if we all learn to identify those traits
Right.
that as they are for us, and defined what childlike wonder is for us, what a freaking legacy we could then leave for ourselves and generations to come. Like you got my wheels spinning now.
I think it's something we
Uh-oh.
can all work on with the next generation. And Mark, that's really cool how you have these young people coming in and they're seeing a different industry.
Yeah.
And kudos to that school for having such a field trip. Like even,
Right.
I mean, seriously, field trips went away during the pandemic. And I think a lot of schools and camps and programs are struggling to remember the importance of bringing little people to these different experiences so that they can have just more exposure to the expansiveness of life.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I could be. Did you say puppet, Mark? Did I hear you say puppet?
It's like a puppet is sitting there near our elevator, and it's actually in a glass case. But yes, it's literally a puppet, and it's actually a musical puppet. Because one of the things that the Hayti Heritage Center, which is a cultural arts center, was known for, and unfortunately it's not happening right now, is our blues festival. So it's kind of an ode to the Piedmont style of blues. And I know Kansas City's got jazz and blues, and St. Louis, of course, has a rich blues community. But it's very much a ode to that part of our culture. So it's literally a puppet in a glass case with a little small microphone and a speaker, and you can see him sitting on a little stool, and you can imagine him performing and everything. But it's like it got 4 plaques underneath that talk that storyline, and then I just kind of embellished the storyline a little bit as well.
That's so cool. And see, that's exactly what I mean is that we all, and to think if that teacher had gone back to the classroom or the camp and asked the kids, what qualities did you like about Mark? Or what qualities did you notice in the puppet? Or what was exciting about the trip to you?
Yeah.
And then they each notice different aspects of either you as their tour guide, or maybe the puppet, or maybe other people they met at your organization. And then that teacher is teaching them to notice that humans are so different.
Right.
Some people are shy, some people are outgoing, some people are courageous, some people are more measured with how they talk, and they kind of really think deeply before they use their words. I'm not one of those people. I tend to be like, oh wait, I didn't mean that, I'm sorry, or that's not really how I feel. Now that I've said it out loud, now I'm like, nope, that's not.
That point, that's literally what I did because there is state references. I looked at the teacher and I told them, the students there, the 8 or 9 students, I was like, you do know that she's probably going to ask you these questions or some question about when she gets to the class. So I
pop quiz
the teacher to do what you said that she should do. So I prompted the teacher that way before they left. I was like, because y'all don't need to just listen to the story. You hear this state, because I even asked them what the state was, and I'm sure that she's going to ask y'all when y'all get back to the classroom and everything. So hopefully she followed that prompt, because I tried to prompt her into that conversation that you're talking about.
Yeah. So I love what you said there, Lauren, that we do. It would be amazing if we had a society that noticed more of our gifts than correcting and teaching to follow orders. And it's something that as a parent, I really get to watch myself, because that's definitely, I adore you, mom and dad, if you're watching. And yet I that authoritative behavior first parenting style, that corrective parenting style, is how I was parented. And so there is not a day that goes by where I'm like, oh, I was just doing the behavior correction parenting style again, instead of like a celebratory parenting style of like, notice the good, notice the good, notice the good.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about trophies for everybody, but I'm talking about noticing when people are they're in their joy. Like, wow, I noticed how you really enjoyed that. Or wow, I can tell that paper that you did, I can tell you're really proud of yourself. And that's what matters.
Right.
Instead of like, I like your drawing, or good job.
Well, and I think that goes for, like, I have been trying to get on that page too, because I'm in trying to, discipline or raise kids who are not, who are honestly just good humans. It's, you get so focused on stamping out those qualities that you don't attribute to that, and we forget to really enforce just like catching them in the good, or acknowledging like things that they're enjoying that you notice. Be like, hey, just like you said, like I noticed that you really enjoyed that, and instead of them just going through the motions, bringing that to their awareness.
Yeah,
I'm right there with you. Like the fishing that you were talking about with your son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and you were talking a minute ago, Andrea, about like, or I think it was you anyway, that was thinking, okay, like, what do you like about a specific experience, and getting those different point of views? Because after a weekend, or a day trip or whatever, we do that with the boys, and we'll be driving home and we're like, okay, what was your favorite thing? And it's super interesting to hear what each one says, because it's completely opposite. And be able to help us understand them through that.
Yeah. One of the questions I heard that I have done my best to emulate is, what were the highs and lows? Or what worked today and what didn't work today? What made you laugh? What made you cry? Or what made you celebrate? What made you uncomfortable? And because it's so easy to just, what did you learn? And then they're just like, nothing. What did you practice today? Math. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of looking for more interactive conversation here. Like, I want to hear about your day, but we can't just say like, what did you do today? I mean, we can say that.
Yeah.
Maybe throw that one in every 20th day.
Yeah.
But generally, like, more of to get more from them is a little bit more
specific
what
and
worked and what didn't work.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, hey, I kind of want to pivot. I know I paused you, but I want to unpause you now, because I feel like we've got to know what started all this. So I think I paused you at the class that you were taking with your friend once a month for 12 months. So I'm still intrigued on what continued us down this journey that brings us this amazing woman today.
Thank you. I received that.
You should.
Thank you. So after that, the school pivoted and said, hey, we're going to do a second year of spiritual psychology. We're going to go deeper. And I just was like, I'm in my 40s. I don't want to do another year. Is there anything else that's not another 12 months and hefty another chunk of change
Yeah.
as well. And so I reached out to that same friend, and she said, there's another great option, which is this transformational leadership program. It's 4 months, and it's like a 15th of the cost. And it's really also really intense. So yeah, that's what I would recommend. And so I signed up for that. And that also did involve flying to California. So got a lot of air miles in 2018, 2019, a lot of air miles. But that was really interesting. That was more of the shadow work, like the stories that you're telling yourself. What are your rackets? What are your core beliefs that are keeping you stuck? Playing safe, playing small, being right, looking good. It's just like you're supposed to be able to have like 1 or 2 dominant. And I just was looking at the list and I thought, I have all of those in spades. I really felt like I had all of those really intensely. And so, yeah, going through some work to unpack that. So you're really transforming yourself to be more of a leader. Like, you don't want to lead, you don't want to be a leader who's, pointing the fingers at everybody else when things go wrong, or when they're upset. You want to be a leader who's able to stand in their responsibility when the ship is rocky, not just, and that's the thing. I think when a lot of us are in our shadow, we tend to, I often coach my clients of like, when you're pointing at someone or something, there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. You're like, oh, that's the thing over there. And it's like, well, there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. So let's start with you, because that's the only thing you can change. Like, yes, sometimes we can change our external environment, and I think for me, that was something really big to look at, was defensiveness. And if there's a problem, it sure ain't me. That ego was really, it was like, we don't kill the ego. It's like, here's the soul. And then, or no, for most of us, here's the ego, and then here's the soul, like definitely in the passenger seat or the back seat. And so it's not about killing our ego. So I'm sure many people use that language, but it's really more like, let's get the soul here, and like, let's put the ego, let's give the soul the keys of the car.
I was gonna say, you just gotta flip it. Yeah,
you just gotta flip it. And gotta is, I think part of our journey is to reconnect with that authentic self, reconnect with that love legacy, that essence, that for many of us, that would be, the God spark, reconnect with that and put that back to running the show. And then the ego still has a purpose. We still get to have an ego.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it was definitely flipped. And then there are days where it's like, whoo, who's got the keys?
Yeah.
Is it the ego or the soul?
Yeah.
Very famous
Feeling
quote.
like an ego day. Whoops.
Many religious people use it, which is that you have to be careful about throwing stones from a glass house and all along those lines. So that's what it is. You were saying that about the 3 fingers. That's what it reminded me of, because even in corporations, as I can tell that you're involved in some of that corporation coaching as well, there is too often people that are wanting to throw stones and don't realize how fragile their own environment is, and all along those lines. So as you were saying, like, I've seen that, where people are throwing rocks at the person, not realizing that their own house, it may not be in order as well, and everything.
Yeah,
absolutely. And a lot of us who have an entrepreneurial spirit, I'm going to just share something that I like to utilize. So the DISC assessment. DISC is a personality assessment. So it's dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. I learned the terms as controller, promoter, supporter, analyzer. And a lot of us with entrepreneurial spirit, we do have some of that controller. And those of us who are manning, like if we're the CEO or if we're manning the ship, if we are constantly acting invulnerable, impenetrable, invincible, we don't tend to, we're not really creating great team bonding. And so those of us who have a lot of controller in our chart, dominance / controller, being vulnerable when we're feeling stuck or when we're feeling low or when we're not advancing the way we'd like. Vulnerability is supposed to be the big stretch for those of us who we tend to want to seek control. So that's been a good life lesson.
But Andrea,
Hmm.
how was you able to do that? Because I know even in some of the corporations I've worked at, including some of the arts ones, there are people that are controllers that have a hard time releasing some of that control. They don't understand
Hmm.
that sometimes they have to let people that are having skills
Mhm.
some room to grow and don't have to always be in control. Because I do know that sometimes controllers like to run the ship, and you can't run all departments of all organizations,
Mhm.
but you have some controllers that feel that they have to have their hands on everything. I'm sure that coach can
Mhm.
even relate to that because I have some coach friends of mine, and I know that sometimes the athletic directors and other places in the coaching fields feel that they got to coach football, got to coach basketball, got to coach everything else, and
Yeah.
sometimes you need to let
Mhm.
the coaches do the coaching and hold on to their part of the job. I have a cousin that was one of his difficult things because he was first a football coach and then he became an athletic director or assistant athletic director. And of course, he always wanted to go down there and run the plays, but his boss was like, who was the principal, was like, "No, you're not the coach anymore. You've got to like let them do what they're going to do, and you
Mhm.
can give them advice, but you got to let them do what they're going to do." But your take on that,
Yeah.
coach?
My
Yeah.
take on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I see that every day. That's it formed my path as a coach on where I went as far as taking on employment. I mean, if I didn't have a an athletic director that had a free spirit, free will to give me the autonomy to be me, I'm like, you hired me to do a job. I'm great at what I do, so let me do what I do. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I heard you say, you kind of, I felt you, I heard you answering it as you spoke, but
right.
delegation. So I
Right.
heard you say delegating. So
Right.
obviously, those of us controlling controllers, we get to delegate. And also I feel like a way, if one were to have a method, the one of the simplest ways is to tell a story that relates to what your employee or your teammate or your client is going through
Hmm.
or struggling with, or an
Yeah.
area where you're seeing that maybe they're blocked, is to share that with them, but tell a relating story about when you might have stumbled in a similar way and how you came
Yeah.
through it. That's one little tiny vulnerable thing we can do. So like a Steve Jobs or someone like that
Yep.
could get on the microphone at one of those giant meetings where they were sharing a new product, and they could tell a story of failure, tell
Yeah.
a story of fumbling, tell a story of how I fell down but then I got back up. And so that, showing that vulnerability, showing I heard someone say, um, those of us who are pretending to be invincible, we are actually vincible. Just thought that was really
Right.
funny. I was like, yeah,
Right.
there is no like opposite of like invincible.
Yeah.
So yeah, making yourself fallible to those people so that you're not seeming like this stone wall, you
Yeah.
know, like people don't think you're perfect. You think that you're perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's so much power in transparency and
Yeah.
Mhm.
vulnerability,
Mhm.
especially from a man, because again, we're taught not to be that way at all.
Yeah.
To always be stoic and not show your feelings. So, I mean, I think that's a powerful man illustrated in the Bible by David, a man who showed all emotion. There was a man after God's own heart. So
Yep.
that's one of the other shows I do, Unbreakable Souls. That's what we're teaching. Going back to fundamentals and teaching men to feel,
Yeah.
express yourself. It's okay to feel. It's okay to express yourself, not just in anger. We mastered that one. So, Lauren, stop.
Yeah, we've got that
Ah.
mastered and everything. But Andrew, I want to come back to something you said earlier about storytelling. It even comes back to what Coach was talking about. Because one of the things that I get frustrated by, and I said earlier, because I was teasing y'all about this earlier, Langston earlier today, because it's now still on the 13th, so it's still Tuesday. And then so he's now turning or has turned to 15 and everything. But when I was younger and my brother was younger, I remember us literally going down and catching the cars that were going by here in North Carolina, which is where I'm based at, and everything, and literally trying to figure out how many states we could find on the license plates. And I don't
Oh, I played
it's
that
like
game.
doing
Yeah.
those now and everything, because there's so much in the devices and everything. But that was a very simple game that we would play and everything. So you would try to, like, as your parents are driving down the road, be like, "There's a car from Missouri. There's a car from Virginia, which of course is nearby. There's a car from Florida." And it became like a whole game. But I don't know that our
Right.
kids are engaging enough in that. So both you and Lauren are parents, and Coach is a coach and also a parent. So I was just wondering your take on that nature of actually encouraging the kids to interact with us as
Mhm.
adult figures, because I don't have any kids. I'm an uncle and everything. But how
Mhm.
important is it to interact with those kids the way that we were interacted with?
Absolutely, yes. I'd love to tell a short story. My twins are going into fifth grade.
Yep.
Last year was obviously fourth grade. And during recess, my son plays, I would call it an imagination game. He would call it his favorite video game name in real life. Like we're playing Roblox in real life. IRL is what the kids IRL.
Okay.
And so
That's so cool.
yeah, and he's on a part of the playground with a few boys, and they're doing this like, and they're like, and like, I'm doing this to you, and like, this is my power, and they're claiming powers and how many points or lives or what, do you go into a different portal, all this cool stuff. And other young men are playing football, and they're learning to throw the football, or they're playing kickball. And my husband, as our son is still very excitedly sharing stories of recess and playing this game, my husband is recalling being in fourth grade 30 some years ago. My husband and I are in our 40s. So being in fourth grade ages ago, and saying that he remembers the day that he was playing imagination game during fourth grade recess and being teased by some boys who were playing sports. And oh, you're so being so dumb, like, God, you're such a baby that you're doing these, you're creating something with your mind and your body that
Right.
the rest of us can't see, whereas the rest of us are in physical world reality playing a game with rules under the constructs of society and adults,
Yep.
and maybe fame and fortune or whatever else we associate with sports. And my husband said that that was the last day he played with his
Oh,
imagination during recess.
oh man.
Oh.
Yeah, and it
Sad
makes
story.
me like, I can feel like tears and emotion coming up as I think of just this
Yeah.
fragile time that they have to really still be in that childlike nature and wonder
Yes.
and play and inventiveness, and almost like a fearlessness when it comes
Yeah.
to believing what they are capable of. And then the world shuts that down.
Down.
Yeah.
It's peers, it's parents, it's teachers, it's society, it's movies, it's music, it's singers,
Yeah.
rappers, influencers, social media. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
It's so, yeah, we get to play games with our kids and embrace that imagination with them as long as we can, and hopefully forever. It would be great, if the entrepreneurial spirit is, I think, not captured well in the United States of
Right.
America,
Right.
possibly
Yeah.
the entire Western world, maybe the entire globe. There's so much pressure to go these routes of a more industrialized corporate
Yeah.
society where your job has a title and you have health insurance and security. And I wish there was just more celebration of just like the human nature and letting it be nurtured. Like Lauren was just saying, as a mother, this is so tough because we want them to not, like, be doing the fishing and hook their brother. So there kind of has to be some sort of rule
Structure. Right.
based structure to, like, you can't just like whip the fishing pole. Like, there's a way, there's a method, but also I want you to be free and express yourself and cast the fishing line the way you want to.
Yeah.
but also their safety. It's tough as a parent. It's tough as a practitioner. It's tough as an influencer of young people. The boundary versus the authentic self-expression. Do they have to be dual? Does it have to be a
Yeah.
duality? How can we nourish safety and that authentic self-expression?
Tree, along those same lines, don't you think we should do it? And this is for Lauren as well, at all ages. I think I've told Lauren this story, but I know I've told Coach this story. My I have two nephews. The one that turned 15, his brother that'll turn 16 on the 21st of this month and everything. But I remember when my nephews were young, my dad, who is an artist, literally was taking them out to show Mother Nature. So he was showing them bugs, he was showing them grass, he was showing them trees. And I'm sure that some of the people that believe that that's too early to start doing things were like, why is Jim Lee, that's my dad's name, out here trying to show the kids all of these wonderments? But I think that it had made them curious beings even to this day and everything, because he was doing that at a very young age. I mean, I want to say it might have been even as young as one that he was showing those kids some of the wonders of nature and everything. So I just wanted your take, because I think that we don't do that enough when babies are born, to actually go out there and let them see the butterflies or the caterpillars or whatever else is out there in Mother Nature. So I was, to even your point, Lauren, about the fish story, I don't think he ever took them fishing. That would have been more my grandfather and everything, but he did have them out in nature. So I just think, then, do we not do enough of that?
Yep. Yeah, I think it depends on each kid for sure on what they like, because Luke would be fishing, but Cooper wants to build whatever the heck he wants to build that night with Legos and make his little kid sounds, and it's really fun to watch him play with that. And as much as he gets mad at me sometimes because I start watching him and stop playing with him, but it's fun to see all that. But so actually, speaking of all that, I'm really curious, Andrea, knocking all my stuff off my table here. After you came out of you said it was a 4-month retreat, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So going into that, knowing where you were before, how did you come out of that?
I got a follow-up question too after you answered that.
Yeah, feeling a little fragile, like feeling inspired, but also
Right.
feeling fragile in the sense that it felt, I was interpreting it as I suddenly had I actually felt some pressure
Yeah.
to perform on a greater level. There were we were put into pockets, which, looking back on it, is like, is that necessary? But I was put into a pocket of like the great leaders.
Yeah.
And I think my brain was excited. I felt very like, wow, this is cool. I'm being seen, and I feel nervous about being put into like a limelight situation. But in the same instance, I think my brain was terrified. And so I flipped it around and was like, I'm not worthy. What will I do with this? I'm being kind of pointed out to like go and lead, like go and like, this is your, like Andrea, you are cut for this. But I of course just flipped it around and made it like, oh no, what will I do? I'm not worthy. So it was interesting. Yeah, I learned so much, but then I felt like I was kind of told to go off and do amazing things, and then I was like, what am I gonna do? Like I'd rather work for someone else, because that's what I've been taught is the better choice. And honestly, also our partners do have a lot to do with how wide we spread our wings. And my husband is amazing, and we are a perfect fit, and yet he is more the steadiness type, and I am more the influencing dominator type. And so that's intense.
Yeah.
And also, as a woman, we're taught to please and perform and serve. And so being with someone who wants steadiness and security is really difficult when you are someone who has the childlike wonder and the curiosity and the enthusiasm and the drive and the little bit of the influencers are very well known for a little bit of the ADHD aspect of like, now I'm interested in this, now I'm interested in this, now I'm interested in this, now I'm interested in this. So it's tough to be married to us. And so it was also tough to like want to go and fly and do big things, and then to be looking at my home situation and be like, how much more of this wanderlust can this man handle? Because I've already done this 1-year training, and now I've been in this other container for almost half a year, and now I want to go, do this full entrepreneur thing. can he hack it?
Yeah.
Like, am I putting too much pressure on my family?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
see,
I know a lot of us can relate to that. Oh no,
oh no,
my
we'll get her back.
browser is. Oh
We
no.
did something.
That's a
Yeah.
good picture of you, though.
I was gonna say that's dope. I love that picture.
Just wanted you all to see that photo.
I got a question though, Lauren. So, or Andrea, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I would say, and I would bet you guys would agree. We live in, especially in the United States or the Western Hemisphere, we live in a dispensation of dissatisfaction
Hmm.
in
Mm.
all areas of life. And I think
Yeah.
I don't want to leave today's show because you hit on, I think, what Lauren and I would call a jewel of the journey.
Mm.
Bing,
And
bing, bing.
yeah. So when we're talking about wonder, and in particular, childlike wonder, in your practice, in your experience, um, in what you do, how do we recover the childlike wonder? I think it's I can't even talk. It's been statistically proven, and brain waves and the levels of
Yeah.
creativity when you analyze a child, and as you progress, like every 3 4 years, and they just lose massive levels of creativity and innovation.
Mhm.
What do we do? Misfits. That is the core of the show. We're creating this show because we want to create a movement. We want to encourage people to be their unique, unapologetically creative selves, to step outside the box, come out of the matrix, and be who you are, so to speak. So,
Mhm.
how do we do that? How do we recapture that energy, that creativity, that space, that God-given ability that, as we become adults, we lose?
I know a lot of us don't maybe have someone in our lives to do this with, but
Hmm.
it's really about connecting with your inner child.
Mm. Yeah.
It's
Hmm. Come
really,
on,
that's what
girl.
it's about. And one way to do that is to give yourself some space from all the people, find a quiet space, and ask at any age of yourself, and then do your best to write in a notebook with your non-dominant hand, to allow yourself to really connect on a deep,
What?
yeah,
Oh my
and
God.
yeah,
I
right,
can
with your
barely even hold it.
non-dominant hand. Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
do your best. I mean, it's not going to be beautiful, but just be patient and let answers come through your non-dominant hand. And often it's engaging such a different part of the brain that you're not going to answer as much with your adult mind. You're going to answer from a much deeper place inside. And if you are patient, and you may have to do this 5 to 15 minutes a day for like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, and then
Wow.
slowly you'll begin to that those aspects of you will begin to reveal what you need,
So
what you
you're
get to.
activating different hemispheres of your brain. That's similar
Yeah.
to EMDR therapy. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You just blew my mind. I'm Lauren's face right now.
It makes all three of us. 'Cause I'm trying to think of what I can write with my right hand because I'm a
Right.
left-handed person. So I'm trying to go like, oh,
Right. Could I even
will
do a
that even
sentence
work?
with my right hand?
And that's why you get to do it multiple days, and sometimes a word or two or three will start to show, and then it's enough to tell you, the adult you, what the answer is, because you'll see it
Wow.
start to come out, and then you're like, wow, okay, cool, I hear you, like I hear you, and then you can ask what else, and then just be patient and let that aspect of you answer.
Wow. Misfits Managed Nation. I
Woo!
hope you just pulled down that nugget, that jewel of the journey from Miss Andrea. Wow. I'm blown away by that. I don't even know what to say to that now.
Hey, Coach, it sounds like she's trying to tell folks to, if I remember the tagline, because we can't see it because all four of us are on here. But Lauren, it sounds like Andrea is trying to tell everybody to embrace their quirks, because I do know that is one of the taglines of the Misfits and everything. So it sounds like she's trying to tell everybody that they need to embrace those quirks, because we all have quirks of one sort or another.
Not only embrace their quirks, embrace the course of your inner childlike wonder.
That's right.
Yes, yes. Man, that is so
That's
good.
Woo!
right.
We've talked about a lot of stuff, but man, I can't let go of that childlike wonder because I just know the power behind that. I'm a grandfather, a poppy of 6 girls, and now my first son, grandson. So the childlike wonder and the creativity, the magic, the passion, the electricity that those young people are able to create. And then the sadness when I think about, oh my God, they're going to actually lose that someday and be put in a box.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the real sad thing because one of the things that, well, I've done it a couple times. One I did it with a rapper many years ago with some diplomats that came to in that rap space, and Pierce Freelon got folks to embrace their foods, like the foods that they had, because they would come from different parts of the world. So he would ask them like their favorite dish if they were from Brazil, or their favorite dish if they were from Iran and everything. But that's what I did with these kids. And like I said, it was only a few of them. But one of the things I had them do was ask what creative field they were into. So there was at least one or two dancers. There was one gentleman, I think he was the only one, that wanted to be a musician. And there was definitely some artists and everything. Ironically, even though I know you've been in this field, Coach, I a little till one of my coworkers came to the field, I forgot about acting, and quite a few of them wanted to be actors as well. So there was even some young kids that were already thinking about theater. But unfortunately, as I know you know, Andrea, sometimes that is also rooted out. Is that we're like, you can't make no money off of that, you can't make no money off of that, and we root that creativity out of them, even though they might not even be trying to do it for money. They might be trying to do it because they have a interest in it that is even beyond the reward aspect of it and everything. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
we root out the creativity aspect because that's one of my frustrations with schools and everything. But it's just love to hear your thoughts around that as we get ready to wind up.
Yeah, I think one of the, I wish I could quote it directly, but it's pursue the passion until the energy runs out. And then if there's another passion, really, really, and this is the trick though, is a lot of us kind of, I don't want to swear, but we half-ass our passions, and we just kind of like, well, we sort of pay attention to it, and then we get shamed, or we say we don't have time, or we don't have money, or we don't have some support that we say that we need, and we stop pursuing it. But what if we just played that basketball, get out there dribbling that basketball until we're tired and we want to go home and sleep? And then the next day, if picking up the basketball again is interesting, you do it again. And maybe you run that course for a long time, and then maybe at some point you see someone kicking a soccer ball at a different part of the playground or wherever you are.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, that actually, I'm noticing what I feel as I see that person exploring that. I am feeling a draw. I'm going to try it out. And then, and maybe it's guitar, or maybe it's acting, or maybe it's whatever it is, drawing, or math, or science, or Legos. Whatever the thing is, keep doing it until you get sick of it. And then that's the universe telling you, hey, maybe this interest has run its course.
Done.
And now it's okay to go and try something else. But then we pigeonhole, and like as parents, like, do we keep them in the one sport, or do we let them try other sports? But sports are so, quote, expensive, and they take so much time. So then we try to, anyway. So passion. So just follow the energy. Just notice.
I hear you
notice
saying
the energy.
I hear you saying, follow what feeds your soul.
Yeah.
Follow what feeds your soul until it's time to pivot.
Yes. And what if we taught that to the next generation?
Oh my God,
that would
bro.
be amazing and everything, because too often we don't even think about the creative aspects. Because one of the things that one of my coworkers talks about is that we think of the arts, but we forget, and Coach, you'll love this, but Angela and we have the same last name, even though that we're not related. She often remembers that sports is a form of the arts, and everything, we want to admit it or not. And the same thing with some of the things that we are teaching our kids now, because this whole drone robots and some of that technology is also part of the arts as well. But a lot of people would think of that more as engineering, but in a lot of people's minds, it is a creative outlet also. So there are a number of creative outlets, including those you might not think of as being creative.
That's such a good point, Mark. That's such a good point, because even coding, coding, software engineering, robotics, like that. You're right. It is an art. It is an energy. It is a passion. Maybe you pursue it, and maybe you do pivot, and it leads you to something if you
Yep.
follow the energy. And
Yep.
it's just, I'm thinking, what if we let our young people follow their energy instead of like blocking them every step of the way?
Oh, yeah.
There's some arts that we're not good at because cooking is also an art. And the joke that my brother has is I taught him to cook by reading him the cookbook when he was a youngster and everything. And I am not a good cook. As a matter of fact, earlier today I ordered DoorDash and everything. So I am not the cook of the family and all of those. But cooking is a form of art and
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
That's it. I was laughing at you when you said half-ass, and the reason I was laughing because I know some people saw me chuckling. They're probably like, "Why is Mark laughing? That's not a funny joke and everything." But that is literally what my dad used to call fusion jazz because he was not a fan. He's kind of letting his tone now, but like the Kenny G's and those, he did not like that music. So when I was a youngster and they had a jazz radio station, he would call that Hodge, which stood for half-ass jazz.
Oh,
Hodge.
well,
I'm
so
Oh,
gonna
and
I'm gonna do the ha with other initials. Just I might borrow that,
You
Mark.
can call that anything you want to. Half-ass
Half-ass
cooking, half-ass
stuff.
whatever.
so Andrea, you have thoroughly blessed us tonight, and we have to say thank you. We
yes.
are honored that you were here, man. The jewels of the journey, and that's a powerful phrase for us
Yes.
here on Misfits Manage. That you have left us several jewels of the journey for our audience to pluck up and utilize when they need that. But um, I would be remiss if I don't end this way. How does everybody connect to you? How do
Thank
they
you for
find
asking.
you? How do they seek out your services and your wisdom? And um,
Thank you. Yeah, thank
yeah,
you for asking. You can pretty much find me anywhere under Andrea Luzon. So my website, it's AndreaLuzon.com. And so there's always a contact card that you can fill out, and that sends an email directly to my personal inbox. And if I know you're not a spammer, which I got to tell you, like, let me help you with your SEO. That's a message I
Oh,
get often.
right.
yes.
But I'd love a contact card from humans that are, if you have a question, or if any of the topics we've talked about today are interesting to you, if you know someone that's struggling with anxiety, procrastination, overwhelm. I also work with a lot of people who identify as neurodivergent, and most of that crew is relating to the ADHD, so
Wow.
attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Oh my God. So
Yeah, and
good.
so many of us it's like 1 in 5 late diagnosed adults. Yeah, I know. Like,
Me.
so yeah, so having a child that got diagnosed quite early,
Yeah.
it was such a slow coming to awareness for myself.
Yeah.
As I'm looking through, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I filled out all the forms with my doctor, and so
Right.
that's a journey that I'm on as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm backing
Yeah.
everything because the coach and well, actually Lauren knows this because she has been the witnesses of it, unfortunately, and everything. Because I know she asks me every week for the video and the audio and everything. So I am the master of procrastination, and I'm not always proud of that and everything. So I even procrastinate sometimes in even things that I am going after, whether that's jobs or relationships. Because even in my 60s, I'm still in that relationship pursuit and everything. So Andrea, can you please give me some solid advice as to how to get past the procrastination? Because, and I mean, Lauren will tell you that she sometimes asks me for it immediately after, and it might be like 5 days later or a week later and everything. So I know that I am guilty of procrastination. So, any cures that you could have for us that are
And
notorious procrastinators?
and
Well,
you might have to throw up your Cash App, Andrea,
yeah.
on that one for the
See
audience
me.
so that they can
Go to my Venmo at Andrea Luzon,
okay.
and we'll work it out.
Okay.
It would be a deeper process, but a great question all of us can ask is, what's underneath that? Like, what's underneath that? And if that's too vague or obtuse, ask yourself, what payoff am I getting by not doing the work?
Yeah.
Like, Lauren's paying more attention to you because she's pinging your phone a lot, so you're getting attention out of it. um
Oh.
It's something,
uh
it's something like that. But
I'll
I
just
can't
coach you
tell
right
you.
now, Mark. You asked the question.
It's nothing like that, but I can tell
Boy.
you that it is probably that I, as Coach G will tell you, have my hands in many things. You've heard me even allude to some of these things. So sometimes it's a matter of trying to wear many hats and not having enough days
Mm-hmm.
in the hour
Right.
because there's only 24 hours in the day. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we, both me and Lauren and even Coach G, would wish that there were 48 hours, but there's not always that many
Mm-hmm.
hours. So sometimes it's not that I'm trying to push Lauren off, but sometimes I'm going like, wait a minute, I got to produce 20 shows and I've got to get to Hey Tide to do some work and I've got to do an
Mm.
industry talk, and there's not enough time in the day, which is probably also why I haven't found that special lady because some of the ladies are going like, Mark, you ain't got no time
Mm.
for us.
One of my favorite coaches, one of my favorite trainers, she said, I noticed how much power I got by putting out fires. There were
Mhm.
always so many fires around me all the time, but I got to come in and save everybody and like fix everything. But then I realized I was the fire starter.
Yeah.
So, Mark,
Yeah.
wearing all the hats, what is the payoff? What payoff do you get by wearing so many hats?
Good point. I
Sit with
like,
that.
yeah,
Sit with that.
Ooh, look at this girl, boy. She brought it strong tonight, boy.
yes,
Woo! and don't ask questions you don't want the answer to.
There you
Also a good
go.
question.
that is very true.
No, but absolutely from love. And you know, we're on camera and we have such a short amount of time, but sitting with someone who can carefully ask questions like that to gently help you kind of get under the hood,
Yep.
that's really what we all deserve in our life. Like I have a coach. You know,
Yeah.
I think every coach should have a coach. And every practitioner should have a practitioner of their same ilk, whether you're a masseuse or a psychotherapist or whatever your practice is. I think you should have one because you're asking people to pay you for your craft, and therefore you should be paying someone for that similar craft because
Yeah.
you know that you're worth having your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotions
Yep.
processed with someone who's talented, and people all around you also deserve to have that in their life. So you deserve it. You're of
Whole
value
other
to
show
get
and
that.
everything.
Yeah. So
Another show, but just really quickly, what is, because you said something that Coach G and Lauren have brought to attention, and I do feel that many of us, myself included, don't always know our worth. Because this is a conversation I have with some friends of mine in the arts world when they are trying to figure out what they are going to charge or if they're going to charge. And then, of course, you always have the people that want you to do it for free or because it's going to give you quote unquote exposure and all along those lines. So I just wondered, as a coach, what is your take on this notion of worth? I am of the personal opinion that many people, from everybody down to the kid level on up to adults in their 80s, don't always know their worth and everything. So I just wondering, I know we're winding down and we've gone over, but I don't mind that. If they'll know, if they will tell you, I'll let shows go over and everything. But what is, if you can just speak to that notion of worth, because I feel that a lot of us don't know our worth in
yeah,
general.
that's a journey for all of us. You know, for me, I had such a huge career pivot. I went from event planner and engineering project coordinator to life coach. You know, life coach and energy healing practitioner. So, you know, to me, there was a big reckoning that had to happen about standing in my own worth as someone who can walk people through that personal transformation process. So for me, yeah, undercharging was a process. It was a process of needing to slowly, like, truly stand in my value and be like, man, if I'm thinking about cutting prices, just go and read the referrals. Go read my testimonials. You know,
Yep.
all 100 plus of them that I have. Just if I'm thinking about cutting prices, go read my testimonials, and
Yep.
that will help me get out of that self sabotage,
Mhm.
the sinking toilet bowl that can
Yeah.
happen to all of us at any moment where we kind of get in that toilet bowl. So it is a journey. One thing that's interesting is like teenage babysitters will charge a lot these
Yeah.
days, like quite a lot. Like some of them are like, I'm charging $20 per hour, I'm
High
charging this
demand.
per hour. And you're thinking like, man, you know, the rest, like so many industries are they're bulking at paying $14 or $15 per hour, and that's in a corporation. And
Yeah.
so it's just interesting how these young people are like coming out of the gate and they're like, I'm not going to take $10 an hour. You
Yep.
know,
Dog
like
walkers.
yeah, dog walkers. I'm barely going to settle for $15 an hour. Like you
Yeah.
need to pay me more than that. And
Yeah.
that's amazing. And then what happens? They go to college, they come out of college, and then suddenly we're being asked to take 14, 15, 10, 11, $12 an
Yeah.
hour. And I might be dating myself when people see this show years from now, but it's just interesting how younger people are like, no, you are not going to underpay me. Like, I could be going out with my friends this Friday night. If you want me to stay with your kids, and they're not saying that out loud, but they'll just say no. And then when you're like, or they say yes and you say the rate, and then they're like, no. And you're like, cool. I'm glad that you know your worth. You know?
Well, I have to thank you. I've only done one session with you at the church, and it was wonderful. So I mean, I have to tell you, that was a great experience.
Yeah, and that was only 15 minutes. Normally,
that was all new to me, but that was wonderful.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I've seen you get to experience a few of the healing practitioners there, and that's just, I'll just say out loud. So there are energy healing modalities that are hands-on, where they are touching the human body. So they would be touching you as a client. The modality that I practice, which is reconnective healing, is a hands-off modality. So it's more like my hands are tracking the energy that you have moving through you that is a little bit, that's out of alignment. So fuzzy or broken, or just needing to come back into alignment so that you can come back into that more full, authentic expression.
And that's part of James's team on Wednesdays?
Yeah.
Once you close us out with that.
Yes, Sacred Human Experience. Okay. So we have a webpage, we have the Facebook group. We're now doing a healing garden, a wellness garden on Sundays as part of the Art Garden KC, which is at Berkeley Riverfront Park. So every Sunday from 11:30 to 4, there will be everything from like sound bath healing to movement. So maybe some Tai Chi or some yoga, or sometimes we have like energy releasing movement. That's you'd have to come and experience it. And then there are massage tables. So those of us who do energy work, you can come and hop on one of our massage tables, and we'll support you in clearing your energy and getting you back into that authentic vibration that is already inside you.
Now, 3 of you are in Kansas City. Is any of this energy work that y'all doing, because you mentioned Facebook, online, so that myself here and Dharma and other people that are in other parts of the world, because Pod TV is a global network, can get some of this energy? So is there opportunities for people to have this work if they don't necessarily live in Kansas City?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, most of my clients are online. So we start with a phone call, I'm over, and then when we disconnect, I work over my massage table, and they're in their home, either in bed or on the couch or sitting in a chair. And then I call them at the end of the energy portion. And then there's an integration that's 10 to 20 minutes afterwards that we do through voice. It's kind of a Q&A that helps the person really lock in everything that transpired. And then what else is really cool is you get to just notice any shifts that happen in the hours or days that follow.
That makes a lot of sense. I know we're ready to wind down.
And that's
Lauren, you brought another great guest and everything. And I did notice, because she said that at the end, Andrea, I'm a fellow event planner, because that's part of what I do in addition to the work at the Cultural Arts Center. So when you said event planner, I'm like, hey, there's a sister from another mother and everything, because she's a fellow event planner and all along those lines. Because I'm actually with a Road to Apollo and a number of other events, including some of our street festivals, because next month we'll have one of our street festivals here in Durham that I'll be emceeing, but I'm also one of the planners for as well. So I can relate to that event planning aspect.
Yes, we're a special breed. I love event planning. It's still one of my favorite things. Yeah, coaching, event planning, tickling my children. On the topic of tickling my children, I'm going to head back to tickling my children and maybe watching a quick show, and then I'm going to tuck them into bed tonight.
Well, we were blessed, and thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I'm really honored. It's been such a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a great experience. So thank you so much. Blessings to your kids and to your family, to your business, ministry. Just we see expansion, and just wish God's best for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. To all 3 of you and everyone watching. Yeah. Have a great rest of your day or night.
All right. Well, take us out of here, Mark. This has been your boy, Coach G.
PSA.
Okay.
All right. Coach G and Lauren, we out.
That's right.
I just need to be left alone right now, man. No, Cam. I think the problem is that you've been left alone way too much.
Life's hard. The world is complicated.
Remember, you are not alone.
Love you, girl. I love you too.
Mental health challenges are common, treatable, and often preventable. It's time to talk about it.
It's time to defy the fear and stigma that has made so many suffer in silence.
Instead, dare to love yourself and others.
Dare to ask for help and support.
You guys. Dare to listen and show up for the people around you.
Join the conversation.
We are sending you signals every day.
We are sending you signals every day.
We're sending you signals every day.
We're sending you signals every day.
I'll be feeling sad, but you're too busy to notice.
We are sending you signals every day.
I'll tell you that I'm feeling afraid,
But you'll just tell me everything's okay.
I'll get real angry about something, but you'll take it personally.
we are sending you signals every day. My grades will drop.
And you'll yell at me for not trying.
I stopped caring about how I look.
And you didn't even notice.
We are sending you signals every day.
I don't see my friends anymore.
And you think it's good that I'm always home.
We are sending you signals every day.
I'll tell you, I wish I could go to sleep and never wake up.
And you tell me to stop staying up so late.
We are sending you signals every day.
I need you to look.
I need you to listen.
And ask me if you can help.
Hey,
I'm Sheriff Chad Chronister. In this day and age, choosing someone you want to date is as simple as swiping left or right. But if you're not careful, a cell phone can be a dangerous tool in the dating world. If you want to safely meet a person you met online, keep your first few meetings public and brief. Take it slow. It can be easy to feel like you know this person because you've been talking online, but the reality is they're still a stranger. Keep your emotions in check and your conversations focused on shared interests, not personal information. Avoid alcohol on your first meeting or limit yourself to one drink. For people of drinking age, it's common to meet at a local bar, but alcohol can lower your inhibitions and cause you to lose control. Remember, use caution before moving your online relationships to the real world. Don't put your safety at risk for love.